Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part two of the coaching contract PowerPoint and lecture presentation. When we were finishing up last time, we went over some of the specific key elements or key clauses needed in a coaching contract. Parties, term, buyouts, termination clauses, reassignment clauses, compensation. Now we're going to move on and talk about, are coaching contracts enforceable? I mean, it seems like coaches bounce from job to job. You got Harbaugh going from Stanford to the 49ers. Now he's up in Michigan. So, I mean, what can be done about this? Is it a legal argument or is it a business argument? So let's explore that area for a little while. I mean, because these coaches, they go from place to place. And as one sports agent, Ross Campbell, said, it's going to happen. As long as schools take quick on the trigger to show coaches a door when the coaches aren't winning, coaches will continue to look for better opportunities when they're hot. I mean, that's just the lay of the land. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, the day he signed his contract with Stanford, was quoted in saying, "Nobody has promised that. I'm not going to write anything in blood on a stone tablet." The day he signed his contract, he was already saying, hey, this contract may not mean all that much. And, coaching contracts are merely statements of economic terms and not moral promises. In other words, they're made to be broken. I mean, that's coming from a law professor at NYU. I don't necessarily agree with that comment. I think a contract's a contract and both parties need to abide by it. But for the schools and the coaches, for whatever reason, seem to skirt this issue. So when a coach leaves, what can you do? I mean, are there any damages that you need to prove? What schools can do, and what some of them actually have done, is they've sought an injunction. All right, they can seek a negative injunction telling the coach, hey, you cannot coach at that other school. All right, you can't. A team, an organization, a college cannot force a coach to coach their team, but they can stop them from coaching somewhere else. All right, and with that, you can sue for damages, or like most colleges do, or most organizations do, is they just cancel the contract. They're like, all right, you're breaching, you're moving on somewhere else. There's no buyout clause or no termination, liquidated damage clause, termination clauses involving liquidated damages. They'll just cancel the contract and suspend their energy, their time, their effort trying to recruit a new coach for their program. Or you can sue and enforce the buyout or liquid damages provision. All right. So if a coach breaches, moves on before the end of the term of his contract, his or her contract moves on to a different school or team, the prior school or team can seek a negative injunction, sue for damages, enforce the buyout liquidation clauses, or just walk away and cancel the contract. To seek an injunction, you have to know what you're getting into. You have to analyze the likelihood of success at trial. You have to state what the irreparable harm is. If the coach is moving on, are you going to be harmed? What harm will you undertake? What are the equitable factors in play? And whether or not the services of the coach are unique. All right, these are all the things that you're going to have to prove. These are all the things that the court is going to look at. They're going to look at the likelihood of success at trial. There's a contract, it's getting breached. The likelihood of success at trial is there. Is the school or team being irreparably harmed? I don't know. That's a hard burden to prove. Maybe, maybe not, depending on the unique services that coach has. And if it's a unique service that this coach is providing the team or the university, the school or the team may be irreparably harmed. And so therefore you need to make sure in the contract language, if you're representing the team or the university, that you're stating in the contract terms that this coach is providing this team or organization with unique services. Okay. The pivotal case on this, or the seminal case on this, is the New England Patriots versus the University of Colorado. In 1979, Chuck Fairbanks was the coach of the Patriots. He was hired by them in 1973. Incidentally, he was hired by them when he was a coach while under contract at Oklahoma University. So, in 1979, he was approached by University of Colorado during the period of time where the New England Patriots were in the playoffs. Back in the 70s, that was something that didn't happen too often. Pre-Tom Brady, pre-Bill Belichick year. He told the Patriots, Coach Fairbanks told the Patriots he's going to leave after the last regular season game. The Patriots sued the University of Colorado, seeking an injunction. All right. Per their argument, the New England Patriots' argument being that Fairbanks was not to provide services connected with any football entity without the Patriots' permission. The University of Colorado approached him, offered him football services, but in order for that to happen, Fairbanks would have had to sought the permission of the New England Patriots before. All right. So the New England Patriots sought an injunction, went to the courts. They proved that they would likely succeed at trial. They proved irreparable harm because of that uniqueness clause, and they were granted an injunction, basically telling Chuck Fairbanks, no, you cannot go to the University of Colorado. You don't have to coach here. That's fine. But you cannot coach anywhere else for the remaining balance or during the remaining term of this contract. So if Chuck Fairbanks had 3 years to go on his contract with the New England Patriots, he could not coach anywhere else for those 3 years. Okay, they sought a negative injunction and they won. All right, what happened was both after seeking the injunction, both parties got clearer heads, and Fairbanks bought himself out of his New England Patriots contract. $200,000 was paid to the New England Patriots by University of Colorado booster, and Fairbanks gave up some of the money that was due to him under his contract with the Patriots. All right, and when that was paid, the New England Patriots said, "Okay, we're going to withdraw our injunction," and the coach was free to coach at the University of Colorado. All right, this practice isn't normally done. All right, there aren't many schools out there, there aren't many teams out there who are going to seek a negative injunction. Just be aware that it can happen. And the reason teams and universities don't do this is because they all do it. They all know this is the business. They all know that coaches jump from place to place to place. And it'd be hypocritical for them to seek a negative injunction while at the same time they're trying to poach another coach from a university who's currently under contract. So even though it's done, a negative injunction can be filed. Is it done sparingly? Just be aware that it can be. Okay. One of the other coaching contracts that got entangled with this injunctions was coach by the name of Dan Brown. In 2003, he was under contract. Sought a 5-year extension. It was granted. Per the terms of the contract, Brown needed the written consent of the university's president to discuss any other employment opportunities. All right. After just 1 year, in January 2004, Coach Brown started getting interest from other schools in the area. So at that time, Northeastern said, "Okay, we just gave you a 5-year extension. We're going to add another year onto it. It's basically a 6-year injunction. Now they're walking away feeling confident. Well, they got the coach locked up for the next 5-6 years. Everybody's good. Everything's happy. Not a month later, Brown accepts a position at UMass. All right, within a month. And Northeastern University, not happy, sought an injunction to prevent Brown from coaching at UMass. All right, they filed an injunction with the Massachusetts Superior Court saying, "Listen, He's under contract. We have him under contract. We locked him up. He can't go anywhere. He doesn't have, he can't go anywhere. He's got to coach here. If he doesn't want to coach here, that's fine. But he can't coach anywhere else. Coach Brown, not happy with this, was quoted as saying, "Everyone in college football does this. We all do this. What's the big deal?" The problem with this case was that UMass and Northeastern University were in the same conference. They played each other every year. They compete for recruits. They compete for media coverage. And in some certain extent, they compete for fans. Coach Brown had Northeastern's playbook, their strategies, their entire program, and he was going to a school within their conference. These factors, the court said, demonstrate irreparable harm. And this is the reason why they granted the injunction, stopping Brown from coaching at University of Massachusetts. The likelihood of success is easy. Well, a contract is a contract for major universities, just as for the rest of the world, was the quote from the opinion. The breach of contract by Brown was and is obvious, brazen, and defiant. The court had no problem finding that there was a contract between Northeastern University and Coach Brown, and said, with no uncertain terms, if this goes to trial, if this complaint gets filed in court, Northeastern University is going to win, right? It's a contract for major universities, just like it is for the rest of the world. Just because this is done in the coaching world, it doesn't mean this breaching of coaching contracts is done in the coaching world. Doesn't mean it's still not a contract. So, the court said, at times, at some universities, football and basketball programs appear to be more important than the university's duties to educate and their duty to instill in college students basic concepts of ethical conduct and adherence to legal and moral obligations. So, the court, on reviewing the application for the injunction, was adamant in their position that, hey, yes, football coaches bounce around. Schools don't enforce the contracts. But hey, when it comes to the courts, contract's a contract. All right? Just because you wanted to do this and you don't abide by your own terms still doesn't mean that we're not going to enforce the contracts. They are legally binding on the schools, and they're legally binding on the coaches. Okay? The court went on to say the UMass, as the Commonwealth's premier higher education institution, was and is so callous in its duty to provide ethical and moral values for its students. The persons from UMass involved in this episode have clearly violated the law, but above all else have brought great shame on themselves and the university. This judge didn't pull any punches here. He came down hard on UMass for entering into contract negotiations and signing Coach Brown while he was still under contract with Northeastern University. All right, the court came to its conclusion citing the New England Patriots case that we just talked about. However, the injunction was lifted, and after the court instructed the parties to settle. How it settled was UMass paid $150,000 to Northeastern University. Brown was suspended for the first 3 games of the season. Ironically, however, Coach Brown coached at UMass for approximately 4 seasons, then left to take the defensive coordinator position at Maryland. Coach Brown had a buyout. He was under contract at the time with UMass. However, he had to pay a buyout fee of $25,000. So you see, the coaching world is very tenuous. Coaches bounce around from universities to universities. The coaches bounce around from teams to teams. That's how it is. However, just be aware that if the contract is in place and it's a contract for a term of years, and that coach is under contract, even though this is the business side, this is how it's done. If a team or university wants to, they can go to court, and more than likely they will win an injunction to stop the coach from going somewhere else. Thank you for listening. to this presentation. All I can say in closing is that that's why the landscape has shifted a little bit. Buyout clauses are becoming pretty much standard in every coaching contract. If a coach wants to leave, fine, you can leave, but it's going to cost you. All right, so the schools are enforcing now. It seems to be not seeking negative injunctions. They are enforcing the buyout agreements, and how buyout clauses work is that if you leave after 1 year, it's $1 million. If you leave after 2 years, it's $750,000, and they decrease during the length of the contract. They're relatively clear cut. It's you leave in the third year of your contract, it's a $500,000 buyout. You leave in the first year of your contract, it's a $4 million buyout. All right. Coaches can pay, you negotiate these. These are part of the negotiation process. And how it usually happens, how I see it happening, is the new school may even pick up the tab for the buyout clause. Okay. All right. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and take care.